talk about or you talk to your stakeholders, right? Make sure you know it is exactly they want from that particular event, right? Yeah, next would be execution, right? So after you're planning, you then move on to execute. So that's where you split the work, the assign roles, yeah, create tasks, right? Then the next stage would then be following up on each of those tasks you've assigned, right? So does anyone have any question from them? So if you have any question, can you raise your hand? Okay, so I think I skipped one step. All right, sorry, I skipped the first step. So the first step is initiation. That's the initiation stage, right? So this is where you speak with your stakeholders, right? Have a clear goal, have a clear objective, and talk about constraints like I think budgets. Yes, we talked about budgets, the dates, the weather, any other thing, right? This is where you make sure you really get to know what the project itself is about, right? This is where you gather the most information about the project before you start your planning, knowing how much your stakeholders have as a budget, right? Probably the dates or venue where the project would like to hold. Basically all those kind of informations, right? Gathering information about that project to have a clear goal, to have a clear objective. This is where we also talked about how for different people a successful event, yeah, means a lot to different people, right? So for me, it could mean something else. For another person, it could mean another thing, right? So this is why I said this stage is very, very important because this is where you really get to know what your stakeholders really, really want, right? So if you skip this stage, you just see that to you, the event might be successful, but the person can come up to you and say to them it was not successful. So this is the perfect stage to get to ask all these questions, right? Because I mentioned yesterday that if you go through this stage, right, and you get to find out from one of your stakeholders or your clients, and the person tells you that one of the very most important things the person looks at the event is food, right? Making sure the food is enough. It should occur to you as you're planning to make sure that your food, the food of that event is like top priority because to you that is what would make the client satisfied. So it's like a cheat code, right? So even if some of the other things are not really as perfect, right? As long as the food is there, the clients will be happy. So that's why this stage is very, very important. This is where you really get to define your goal, not just okay, our goal is to make sure the event is successful, right? It is very, very different, right? You need to be more specific. Okay, what part of this event would make this whole event successful, right? So then move on to the planning stage. This is where you create your plans, right? You assign roles, create tasks, right? Maybe someone is going to be handling logistics, another person is going to be handling maybe the media, right? Sound and so on. Create a timeline, as I said, that's making sure everything happens at the right time, right? Okay, so what time are the graduates supposed to be seated? What time are the guests supposed to be seated? What time is the event going to start? What time is it going to end? So having a clear timeline helps you put things in order, right? Then we move on to the third stage, right? That's the execution. This is where the work really starts, right? So this is where you start to monitor payments, monitor your team themselves, checking regularly with your team, right? So this part is very, very important. Checking in regularly with your team. So I think that's where we are going to start from today. But before I continue, does anyone have any question from our yesterday's class? Okay, so I believe we're all clear. All right, so today we'll be talking about waterfall and agile methodologies, right? So I know this can sound strange to some people, but it is really easy, right? These are just ways of approaching projects, right? These are two different ways of approaching projects, right? So we'll be talking about them one by one. All right, so let's start with the definition, right? So what is waterfall? What is a waterfall? What is waterfall method, right? So waterfall is a sequential project management method where the project flows step by step, right? Like water going down with waterfall, right? So you complete one phase fully before moving on to the next. It's a structured, predictable, and strict, right? While agile is a flexible, team-centered method where work is done in small pieces called sprints. After each sprint, the team reviews progress and gets feedback and improves the next phase. So I have a simple way of explaining this, right? So let's say you're building an house, right? You are a project manager for the construction of an house, right? Imagine building the foundation, right? You've built the, let's say your clients, right, request for, let's say, a two-story building, right? And you've built the fourth story, right? The kitchen is there, everything is already the kitchen is there, the first room is there, the sitting room has been built, the what do you call it? Sorry, the dining has been built, right? So let's say it is after you've built all those places, the client now comes to meet you and says that, okay, I don't like the way this kitchen is looking. I want my kitchen to be room. I want my kitchen to be near the um dining or something like that, right? After you've built the first floor already, you know it will be very, very difficult for you to really break down everything and correct that mistake, right? That is what waterfall really is. That's what waterfall method is. It is a more strict method, right? So this is strict in a way because you must get everything right at the beginning, right? You must make sure your instructions are clear because changing anything after that would be so difficult and would obviously cost more money. Like, for example, in this house now, yes, it is possible for them to actually change the position of of the kitchen, but that will cost more money. Probably have to break down some walls, probably have to waste some materials and so on. So it wastes time, it wastes money, right? So then the agile method is a more like teams flexible method, right? So let's say using the same example, let's say I build the kitchen first, right? And I go and meet my client and calls him to look at the kitchen. Okay, so this is how the kitchen looks. Are you satisfied with how it looks? He tells me yes. Okay, then tomorrow I move on to building the sitting room, right? And I call him back that, okay, I've built the sitting room. Are you satisfied with how the sitting room looks? He tells me no, that he wants to change some things, right? So I change it. At that point, if he wants to change anything in the sitting room, it will be so easy for him to change, right? It's so easy for me to change that part because I haven't really gone so far, right? I've only built the kitchen. So if I'm changing anything in the sitting room, it would really cost me much time and money, right? So that's just the difference between waterfall and agile. Waterfall is a more sequential um project management method, right? Where everything flows step by step and it is more structured, predictable, and strict, right? While agile is more flexible, things tend to change easily. Okay, we can be going in this direction today, but tomorrow we decide that we're going into this direction, right? So now we're going to look at which of these methods is best for project management. So is everyone following me?
Yes, we're following.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yes,
please can you
sorry.
come in one more time, like briefly? I was
Okay,
like,
you
please
want
can
me to
you
go
come
over it?
in one more time? Yes, like briefly. The waterfall and the agile be different.
All right, so as I said, waterfall, just look at it this way. Waterfall is a much stricter method of doing things than agile, right? So in waterfall, there's little to no allowance for change, right? Because the main thing in waterfall is that everything must be cleared at the beginning. After everything has been, all the arrangements have been made in the beginning, once the building starts, once work starts, there's little to no room for change, right? So if you're using the waterfall method, right, so everything would have been settled in the beginning. Okay, for example, if you're building a house now, for the example I gave now, from the beginning, from where the architect draws it, the client would have looked at it and say, okay, this is exactly what I want, right? So we would have finalized on everything, how the whole thing is going to do from the beginning. So we just go straight into building, right? So in that method, the only issue with it is that, as I said, there's little to no change. So if tomorrow the client wakes up and says that he does not want the kitchen at the back again, he wants his own kitchen in the front, it will be so difficult for me to change that because we've already built the house or we've already built the kitchen, we've already built the whole building already, right? But the difference between it and agile is that agile is a little bit more flexible, right? So it is done step by step. Let me put it like that. In small pieces called sprints, right? So even if at the beginning we've all decided on something, right? I can still decide to build the kitchen first, then call my clients to come and look at it and say, okay, we built the kitchen. Oh, this is how it looks like. Are you satisfied with how it looks? He says yes. Okay. Then I build the sitting room and then I call him again. Okay, this is the sitting room. Are you satisfied that it looks? He says no, that he wants to change something. It will be so easy for him to change because we've not really gone so far, right? We've only built the kitchen and now we're building the sitting room, right? So if there's something that needs to change in the sitting room, fine, you can always change that, right? So the main difference between waterfall and agile is there room for change. In waterfall, it's so strict, right? And there is no room for change. While in agile, there is plenty of room for change because at each sprint, at each step, you're always calling your clients or your stakeholders back for feedback on how on whether they want something changed or they want something added or they want something removed, right? So did you get that?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So now we're going to look at which of this method is best for project management. All right. So when do we use waterfall? When is it best for us to use waterfall? Right. So for waterfall, it's best when the project is clear from the start, right? When the requirements won't change and when the mistakes are expensive and hard to fix later, right? So especially when you're working on events, constructions, and manufacturing, right? So for example, in terms of events, right? For example, my client comes to meet me that okay, he was planning a birthday party, right? If we've already started all the decorations for the birthday party, yeah, we've all agreed that okay, this is the venue we're going to use. It's a birthday party. These are the colors. This is the budget, all of that, and we've started already. And tomorrow, my client comes to meet me that it's no longer a birthday party; it's a burial. You know, it will be very, very crazy for me to start changing every single thing, right? Going from, for example, for the music, the decorations, the food, every single thing, right? It will be very, very difficult and expensive to make all those changes, right? So this is when it's best to use waterfall for events, for construction, for manufacturing, right? So at the very first stage, make sure every single detail, everything about the project is clear from the start, because anything after that will be so expensive to change after that, right? So when do you now use agile? Agile is used when the project is likely to change, right? When you want user feedback, sorry, and when the team is collaborating actively, right? So for example, when you're building a website, when you're building the app, please give me a minute. All right, yes. So for example, maybe when you're building a website, an app, or maybe a startup idea, right? So for example, if I'm building a website or I'm building an app, today I can decide that okay, I'll start with let's say I'm building a banking app, right? So today I can start with okay, my banking app today, one feature I want is that it should just be able to make transfers, right? So when I add that feature, I can go back to my clients and say, okay, I've added this feature or my users and let me see their feedback from that first, right? Do they like the idea? Do they not like it? They say they love it. I can then move on to the next step. Okay, maybe the next feature I want to add now is for you to be able to buy airtime from the bank app, right? So I can start working on that. When I'm done with that feature, I add it and I go back to my users or my clients and I ask them for their feedback. They say they like it, sure. If they don't like it, I can always remove it, right? So agile method is used when the whatever project you're working on is very, very flexible and it's easy to change, right? This is where these are projects where feedback is usually very, very important, right? But for waterfall, there's room for little to no feedback because once everything is settled from the ground up, it's very, very difficult to change, right? For example, in construction now, let's say even from the foundation, let's say I've not even built the house. The foundation for a two-story building is different from foundation for a one-story building, right? For a bungalow, right? And the foundation for a two-story building is different from the foundation for a skyscraper. So if we all decided that, okay, my client came to meet me and said he wants to build a two-story building, right? And we've already started, we've settled every single thing, we've done the foundation, and tomorrow he decides to change his mind that he no longer wants a two-story building, he now wants a skyscraper. No, it will be very, very difficult to change, right? It will be very, very expensive. It will take more time. Because probably have to dig up everything we've done and start all over, right? So in projects that are more expensive and hard to fix, waterfall method is mostly used here, right? Because it's very, very important for you to settle everything at the start to make sure the objectives are clear, the goal is clear, the budget is clear, the venue, if you're using it for events, is clear, the date is clear, right? So that is when you use waterfall. But for agile, this is used mostly in the tech space, right? When they're building websites, they're building apps, startup ideas. So these are more flexible, right? They're more flexible to change. If someone tells me they don't like this about my app, I see that my users don't like this, I can always remove it, I can always change it, nothing affect, nothing spoils, right? But it will be very, very different for a building, it will be very, very different for an event, right? So is everyone clear? Does anyone have any question about that? So does anyone have any question? Are we all clear? So if you are following, can you please drop an emoji? All right. So we can move on. Remember, if you have any question, you can always just raise your hand. I would call on you, or you can use the chat box, right? You can write down your question in the chat box. So let's move on.
Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. I want to say something.
Go.
Yeah. I want to just understand what you said. You said that the waterfall method can be used for things that are not easily changed, that is rigid. For example, building a house or construction, basically construction like road and other things. But the agile can be used for things that are flexible, probably in the tech industry, building the app, building a website that you can easily change it gradually. I think that's basically what you said. But I want to understand that I don't miss anything.
Yes, that was what I said, right? So waterfall is used for more rigid projects, right? Projects where it is most likely expensive or hard or difficult to fix or to make changes after. Well, agile method is used for more flexible project sites, for projects where it won't really take anything for you to change or to remove, right? So mostly in the tech space, right? Building websites, apps, startup ideas, and so on and so forth. So yes, you got everything.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. So let's move on to leadership versus management, right? So we've all heard the word leadership, right? We all know what leadership means. We all know leadership means to lead a particular group of people, right? Well, what is the difference between leadership and management? Because project managers are both leaders and managers. So what is the difference, right? So the difference mainly is leadership is more about vision, motivation, and like direction, right? So your leader tells you the direction you're going to go, he motivates you, he generally gives the vision of the team, right? So a leader is like a standalone, like a representative, right? From whom you can like from looking at a leader of a team, you can really portrays what the whole team is about, right? So your leader is a motivator, is a visionary, and is one that gives direction of one part of a particular project, right? Tells everyone what to do and so on and so forth, right? While a manager is management is more about structure, right? It's more about processes. It's more about getting things done, right? So I would define it like this: a leader is more on the surface than a manager, right? So a manager goes deep, right? So I mean, the manager actually has to relate with his team members, right? Has to make sure the things get done, not just assign work, not just assign tasks, or not just give direction, right? He actually has to follow up and make sure things are getting done. Right. So that's the difference between, let's say, the CEO of the company and the manager of the company, right? So a manager is usually more in depth, right? Has a more in-depth relationship with his team members than maybe the leader or the CEO you understand what I mean, right? Sometimes the CEO might not even know the names of his team members. All he does is give instruction, give direction, and everybody follows suit, right? But a manager goes more deeper, right? It follows through with everyone, right? make sure things are getting done. It's not just you give someone assignment or you give someone a task to do and you forget about it, right? And just hoping that that person comes through, right? Or that person performs that task, right? No. For a manager, you really have to follow through with that person, right? It involves processes, it's more about structure and really getting things done, right? So a leader might say, okay, let's make this event unforgettable, just like give a speech before in front of the team members, and after that, right, you never see him again, probably till the day of the event. That's practically what a leader does, right? But a manager would say, okay, what are we doing? What are we doing now? What have you guys done? We're supposed to be doing this. We're supposed to be packing the chairs. We're supposed to be packing the speakers. Why have they not done that? Talking with, going along with the process, making sure everything goes smoothly, right? So that's why, as a project manager, I said that yesterday, that going along with your team members is very, very important, right? Because if you are not carried along, right, so many people can disappoint, right? It can disappoint you, right? So like there's a question someone asked on the group, right, of having a backup. When I talked about risk assessments, right, yesterday, I said you should always have a backup for each tax, right, or for each vendor, have a backup, right? And the person also give an example of a caterer, right? For a caterer now, if I already have a caterer, and for example, I'm trying to look for a backup for a caterer, it's very difficult because food doesn't just take 5 minutes to prepare food, right? Some of these caterers would have to work overnight, work a day before, prepare some of these things a day before, right? So if my vendor or my food vendor doesn't show up on that day, on the day of the event, right, it will be very, very difficult for me to start looking for someone else to start cooking, right? So that's why I'm just trying to emphasize how important it is to always follow up on everybody. If the night before the event I am still with the with the vendor, or I'm still with the caterer, and I'm asking, okay, is there anything else you need? At what time are you going to be there tomorrow? If anything comes up, right, she'll be able to tell me that, okay, I'm sorry, I will not be able to make it tomorrow. And something came up, okay, maybe there was an accident or something that really, really would stop her from coming tomorrow, right? I would have known ahead of time. That me just believing that, okay, I've paid this man money, I've paid the caterer's money, you should bring the food to the event on Friday and forget about it. No. If Friday comes and I don't see anybody, it's going to be on my head, right? I might get a refund from the caterer, but at the end of the day, the event is unsuccessful because there's no food, right? So that's why following up with everyone is very, very important. It doesn't matter how small the road is, doesn't matter how big it is, right? So as a manager, you have to follow up with everyone and be involved in the process, right? And make sure things are getting done. Not just about giving tasks or giving instructions. You also have to follow with those instructions and making sure that the things are done, right? Tasks are done, right? So does anyone have any question on that? So if you have any question, you can always just raise your hand. I'll call on you, and if you can also type it in the chat box, and I'll read your question out loud. So I would assume everyone is clear with the difference between leadership and management.
I'm not clear, sir. Please, if you can come again.
Sorry, sir. I want to ask something.
Okay.
I understand that a leadership is less connected with the people compared to the management or the manager. So,
Yeah.
but you say a project manager must be both a leader and a manager. So I want to understand what type of project will you be a leader, and what type of project will you be a manager?
All right. So let me use that to explain leadership and management once more, right? So leadership, as I said, is a more on the surface role, right? So a leader would focus more on motivating its team members, giving speeches, being like a figurehead of the team, right? Giving instructions, giving directions, just doing things on the surface, right? Doesn't really connect with the team members, right? while a manager would really connect with the team members, right? Might not be the one. I feel a manager is a combination of both leadership roles and the manager role, right? Because the manager would also give instructions, but instead of just giving instructions, a manager would actually follow up on those instructions, right? Would actually follow up and make sure things that are actually getting done, the tasks he gave are actually being accomplished, right? So a leader is just a more on the surface role, right? Doesn't really interact with the team members. Will just give instructions that um and hope that they get done, right? And hope that the instructions are followed, right? And if they are not followed, then they can now proceed to maybe um giving punishments or sort of things like that, right? But in terms of project management, that won't really work, right? Leadership can work in maybe business organizations that you know that okay, if you don't do what your leader says, okay, yes, you could get a query or you could be fired, and that's all, right? But in terms of project management, if something doesn't get done, at the end of the day, it comes on your head as a project manager, right? So you not go back to your clients and tell them that it was because the person you had for food did not come. That's why there was no food that day. The person would not want to hear that excuse, right? So as a project manager, that is why it's important for you to actually follow up on every single person. Make sure every single role that is being assigned is actually being accomplished, right? Everyone is actually working. Right, so that's the difference between a leader and a manager. Right, the manager actually has to do those roles. Actually has to follow up. Right, actually has to be involved in the process. Right, so because as a project manager, as I said, everything still falls back on you. So if your vendors don't work, if your team members don't work, right, at the end of the day, it falls back on your head. So that's more reason why you should follow up on them. Right, make sure they're actually doing the work. Make sure they're actually participating. Right, so I believe that answers both your questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. So does anyone else have any question? So does anyone have any question before we move on? All right. If there's no question, let's move on. Yeah. So sorry, please give me okay. All right, so let's move on to essential project management skills. Right. So what are some skills you need as a project manager? Right. So first skill is communication. Communication, very, very important, right? I feel it's even the most important one because as a project manager, if you don't know how to communicate, you end up having everything planned up in your head, and the day of the event, everything just goes into chaos, right? And that's because you were not able to communicate everything you had clearly, right? Communication is very, very key, especially when you're working with people, right? Because for project management, as I said, you're not just assigning tasks, right? You're not just completing um tasks, right? You are also working with people, right? And if you don't communicate with the people that you're working with, they're not psychics, right? So they can't really read into your mind and know, okay, this is what my manager wants, right? So you have to communicate effectively, right? Give clear updates, right? Status reports, team coordination, right? So that's very important, right? Especially in the execution stage, because that is where the work is really, really being done, right? So you have to really communicate to each and every one of your team members, even in the planning stage, because that's where you assign roles, right? That's where you assign tasks. So if you are assigning a task to me and I don't fully understand what you are telling me to do, right? That's already a miscommunication, right? If you are telling me, you're trying to tell me that I should get as many shares as possible, and you're just telling me get as many shares as possible. I don't have an exact number in mind. So if I'm going to rent a chairs, I wouldn't know the exact number I would need to rent. Right. So you just telling me get as many chairs as possible. And let's say I manage to get 200, right? I'm happy with myself that okay, I've managed to get 200 chairs. I don't know how many people are going to be there for the event. You are the project manager and you know that, right? But you're not able to communicate it clearly to me. I just go and rent 200 chairs. And for the event, the capacity, the number of people they're expecting is around 500, that will be a problem that day, right? And that was just because we were not able to communicate clearly, right? So communication is very, very key, especially as a project manager. You must be able to communicate with your team members. You must be able to communicate even with your stakeholders, right? Because if you're not able to communicate with them, if you're not able to talk one-on-one with them, communication is not just a one-way thing, right? It's not just like talking with someone. Communication means like you're talking with someone and the person is also understanding what you're saying, also giving you back. So communication to stakeholders is very, very important, especially in the first stage, in the planning stage, in the initiation stage, right? Because if you don't know how to speak to your stakeholders, you will not be able to get all these little insights, right? Like for example, the ones I've been mentioning, that's like knowing what makes a event successful to every single person, right? So there's a way you'd have to phrase that question to your clients, your stakeholders, that will make them feel comfortable sharing that with you. That okay, I've been to I've been to so many parties, and some of them they don't have food, and it's always annoying. Or some of them it's always just this bad music they're always playing, and I don't like it. There's a kind of way you communicate with them that would allow them to share certain things that would help you better do your job, right? So that's why communication is key, not just to your team members, but to also to your stakeholders, right? So the next is teamwork, right? So teamwork, I can't emphasize this enough. You are working with people, I've said this, you are working with people, and if there is a disruption in your teamwork, it's going to affect the whole event, right? So if you don't know how to work with people, it's better you start learning now, right? People are very, very sophisticated to work with, but if you can learn the skill of working with people, of communicating, that's why communication was the first, right? Because the first stage to teamwork is in communication, right? Because if you don't understand someone, you can't work with that person. So teamwork, communication go hand in hand. First stage in teamwork is to be able to communicate with that person, for you to be able to speak and the person understands you, and for the person to be able to give you feedback that you also understand. So that's the first stage. If communication is perfect, then teamwork would also be perfect, right? Because you've communicated, I've gotten your feedback, I've also told you, okay, I've also taken that into consideration, right? I've also given my opinion. That's the first step to teamwork. We're both agreeing on something, right? So teamwork is also very, very important. Then the next is stakeholder management. I've also explained that during communication. You must be able to manage your stakeholders, right? You must be able to communicate with them. You must be able to get to know what they really want, right? Because it's their events, right? It's their project, right? You're just helping them to achieve their goals. So if you are not able to communicate with them, if you don't know what their goals really, really are, then there's no way that event can be a success, right? So that reminds me, that's one major difference between product management and project management, right? So project management is more focused on the clients, right? On your stakeholders, right? While product management is user focused, right? So for example, for project management, your task is to make the people that hired you, your stakeholders, your clients, make them happy, not the people that come for the events, not the caterer, not the DJ, not the people that are packing the chairs. Your clients are who you are supposed to make happy, right? But it's different for product managers, right? Their own goal is to make the users happy, right? So sometimes the stakeholders might have an idea that would not really make the users happy. As a product manager, if you're a product manager, your job would be to prioritize the users, right? What to make the users happy. Because at the end of the day, all what the stakeholders in product management, all they want is that their products should be successful, right? That products should work, it should bring money, right? So if you are seeing something that would not bring money, you should avoid it as a product manager. But it's very, very different for project managers, right? Our key goal is to make our clients happy, is to make our stakeholders happy, right? So our users or the guests or whoever is coming for the event, that maybe our second priority. Our first priority is to make our clients happy, our stakeholders happy. So that's why stakeholder management is also very, very important and essential skill for project managers. Then the fourth one is problem solving. It is so easy to plan, right? It's so easy to have all the outlines done, all the tasks assigned, right? Everyone's working. It's so easy, right? But what really taxes you as a project manager, what really shows you're a project manager is when problems arise, right? When the DJ says that his laptop is no longer working, or when the venue, right, the all you bought or the all you rented tell you that the ACs are not blowing well, right? Or when something somewhere comes up, that's what really shows your skill as a project manager. You must be able to solve problems really, really quick as they come, right? So once someone tells you, okay, there's an issue with this, there's an issue with this, the first thing that should come to your head is, how can I solve this? Not that, okay, who is in charge of this? What happened? Why did this not work? This is all those yes, it is of course necessary to ask questions why things are not what they are supposed to be, right? But also as a project manager, what is supposed to be in your head is solution, not really focusing about the problem, right? You can discuss that later after the event, right? Okay, what did you do wrong? Okay, why did this person not why did the DJ not check his laptop before coming? All those kind of things. All those are secondary, right? Your first priority is making sure the event is successful to your clients, right? So of course, any problem that arises, you should be able to solve them, and you solve them by what? Thinking of solutions. That's the first thing you should do. Okay, what am I going to do? Okay, the DJ, can you get another person's laptop? Can you use another person's laptop? Or would you have to, is there a way we can fix it, right? For the ACs, okay, do you have fans? Can we turn on the fans for now? Or what are we supposed to do? Is there anyone coming to fix the ACs? Those are ways to solve problems, not just getting angry and getting frustrated, right? So then the last one is time management. As I said, as a project manager, you always have a deadline and you'd have a timeline, right? So if an event is supposed to start 10 o'clock and by 11, the event has not started, right? By 11, the decorators are just decorating the chairs, right? Anybody, any guest even coming for that program would already have a bad impression, right? Because imagine you being a guest at a wedding and you are coming, they told you the wedding is 10 o'clock, right? You got there around 11:30 and they've not arranged the chairs, right? They are still decorating the chairs and they are asking you, okay, sorry, ma, please stand up. Would like to decorate this chair. Please help us move to this place. It's a bit, uncomfortable, right? So time management is very, very key. As a project manager, you must always have your watch on you, right? Make sure everything is done on time. Okay, the program is about to start. It's supposed to start 10 o'clock. Let it start 10 o'clock. Even if there are still some things that are not still done, let it start 10 o'clock. All those things can be done simultaneously, right? So as a project manager, you must be able to manage your time properly, right? And you can do that with all these other skills, right? So every other skills are connected, right? So communication helps teamwork. Communication helps your stakeholders, right? It helps you discuss with your stakeholders. Communication also helps you to solve problems, right? And also helps you manage time. Same thing works the other way, right? So time management, right? Communicating would help your time management. Teamwork would help your time management. Making sure you are clear with your stakeholders will also help your time management. Problem solving skills, right? Being able to solve problems as quick as possible will help your time management. So every of these single skills, right, are all connected to each other, right? One would help the other, and the other would help one, right? So every one of these skills would make you a better project manager, right? So does anyone have any question before we move on? Does anyone have any question on these skills?
I have a question.
All right, yeah, you can go on.
You give us a cheat code that we should always ask our stakeholders what they want, like their goals, and like how they are success the event. So now I wanted to ask that what if some stakeholders don't tell you, they just tell you go ahead and do whatever you want. What do you do at that point? Like how do you get information from them? How do you do to be able to know what you do?
Right, yes. So I know there are some people that will just tell you, there's some clients that will just tell you that, okay, all I want is just that this, I just want it to be successful, right? I just want it to, I just want everything to work. I just want everything to go well, right? So that's why I said communication and stakeholder management are very, very important, right? So there's the way you frame the question. You might not outrightly put it to them that, okay, ma, okay, sir, what would make this event a success to you? You know, some of those generic questions. So if you ask some of those generic questions, you might not really be able to answer at that point, right? You just feel that, oh, if I go and say this now, make sure the person will just think that, okay, it's only food we want at that event. I might not really focus on maybe getting me good music. So the person just say, I say I want everything to work well. I want everything to be fine. I want everything to be successful. That's right. But what is the way you phrase the question to the person, right? It might not necessarily even come as a question. It might just come as a discussion, right? You're just talking with the person, have a discussion with them, and the person slips out, right? So, as I said, communication is very, very key. The way you talk to your stakeholders, the way you relate with them, would allow them to expose some things, right? Let you know some things that will give you an idea of how you're supposed to manage that event, right? So I know at the end of the day, even after that, some people might not still reveal everything to you, but that's fine, right? So that's just left for you to then use your digression and like try to make everything overall beautiful, right? Successful, right? Everything works from time to time, right? But I'm just telling you that most clients, if you really master the way of communicating or the way of having conversations, right, you can really talk to them and get them to say some things, right? Then another way you can do this is through, depends on which tool you are using, right? So I usually send people a form, right, a Google form, asking them all of these questions, right? So if after sending them this form, they don't there's a way you put it. Basically what I'm saying is there's a way you can frame a question on Google Forms, right, that they can't really say no, right? They can't really say I don't know. They can't really say just let it be successful, right? So for example, if I ask which part of this event is really more important to you, and I put a multi-choice question, right? So A would probably be food, B be music, C would be the venue, or D would be the decorations. And I ask them to pick one, and it's a compulsory question. At the end of the day, they don't have any choice, just to pick the one that is most right important to them, right? So there are certain ways you can phrase questions, and if the client is not still forthcoming with information, then that's fine. Just do your best as a project manager. So I've answered the question.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. I'm going.
I want to ask a question. There are some clients that you are working with. They might have an unrealistic demand or an unrealistic time frame for the project. So I want you to tell us or to explain a way that you can communicate in a negative way, like telling them, no, this cannot work. The best way to present yourself when you have an impossible task that they are trying to give you, which is unrealistic. Probably maybe they say you should do something with it. You should build your house for them within 6 months, something like that. Or just is something that is unrealistic that that, oh, this can be done within this period of time. So I want you to tell us a way that we'll be able to communicate that particular type of thing, because most clients don't like hearing no, just telling them no. So a way that we are going to communicate with our client that it will make them understand that this is an unrealistic demand. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, so for clients like that, right, what I would usually advise you do is make sure you are really detailed in your telling them no, right? So don't just tell them no, right? Tell them why it is no. Let them know to the letter, right? Write down all the costs. Write down, okay, what each step is, how long each step is going to take. Like for example, now for the example you gave, building an house, right? If someone comes to me to that, okay, I want to build an house in 6 months, and that's not possible, right? Tell them why. Tell them that, okay, this is a quote from the bricklayer. The bricklayer says for the foundation to dry, it takes at least 2 months, right? This is a quote from the plumber. The plumber says to attach or to install the plumbing to make all the water running, it will take at least 3 months, right? And install on that quote, okay, this is what this person said, this is what the electrician said, that it will take another 5 months for him to be able to properly wire the whole house, right? Someone else, okay, this is, just let them know why it is no, right? So I doubt anybody will argue with reason. That's why it's always best. I always advise to give reason for your answers, right? So you don't just outrightly tell them, I'm sorry, ma, that's not possible. I'm sorry, sir, I can't do that. No, also tell them why. Tell them, okay, the 6 months you've given me is not feasible, and here is why. Because this will take this time, this will take this, let them break every single thing down for them so that they don't just think that okay, you are just being lazy or you just don't want to take the job, right? So let them know every single step that you're going to take and how long each of those steps is going to take, right? So if you are presented with an unreasonable goal, right, let them know why that goal is unreasonable. Right? Because some of these people don't really know, they don't know these steps, they don't know the in and outs, right? They don't know the things you would have to do. So that's why you have to let them know. You have to explain it in details. Okay, so why here is why this would not be possible. These are the things I will need. This is how long this will take to, That's why I said it's always important for you to carry them along in every step, right? So if they don't know what anything about your whole process, right? They don't know anything about the process. It'll be so easy for them to complain. It'll be so easy for them to tell you that okay, this particular thing is taking long. I don't know why it's taking long. But if you explain every single thing to them from the beginning, you'll have an idea that okay, by the end of this month, okay, the bricklayer should be done. By the end of next 2 months, okay, the foundation should be done, the first story should be done. If you've broken every single thing down, right, do not say any reason. You are giving them reasons, right? So they can't say no to reason because of course, you're not supernatural, right? You're not you have black magic, so you'll build the house in 6 months, right? So you are giving them reason why it will not be possible. That's all, right? I doubt there'll be anybody that would argue with reason because what else would the person want to tell you? Okay, this is why this takes 6 months, this takes how many months, this takes this and this, right? And that's all. Basically, I know I ask you that, okay, the house you want to build, okay, just do the foundation in 2 days. I'm okay with it. That's not left to you, okay, whether you would like to take that job or you'd like to leave it. Because at the end of the day, if the house collapses, you see the project manager, they'll come and meet that, okay, you're the one that built this house. Why did it collapse? They will not write it there. They will not tell you. They will not tell whoever is coming to meet you that they requested the foundation be done in 2 days, right? So that's why, as a project manager, yes, it's even good for you to be able to pick which projects would work for you. If you're looking at the client, that this client, after explaining every single thing, explaining your whole process, and this client is still acting unreasonably, right? It's best for you to avoid that project, right? Because at the end of the day, the person will pay you money and everything will not even be worth the money at the end of the day, right? So that's why it's always good to avoid those type of situations. Make sure to explain why your decisions, why you make such decisions, right? Why you say, okay, no, it's not possible for me to execute this project in this particular time frame, or even if it's about budgets, right? It should not be possible for me to execute this project within this particular budget. And here's why: because even only just these so people will take this amount of money. Only just these so people will take this amount of money. Not to talk of my own service charge alone, right? So you have to really explain this to people, right? So if these people are not really aware of your own process, they don't know what you're going to go through, right? The steps you're going to take. So that's why it's best to always explain to them before embarking on the project. So does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. So
Yeah.
I want to just say something.
Yes.
Basically, we should communicate with our stakeholders about it. So even in terms of unforeseen circumstances, probably there are things that you can't control. Maybe the weather, something just happened that have to delay. It's still that communication that matters very much, right?
Yes. You still have to
Okay,
communicate.
thank you.
If anything doesn't work out the way you planned, it's always best to go back to the same people. Okay, I saw you because of this. So not that like the person is expecting in next 1 month his house is finished, right? And next 1 month is expecting your call and you've not called, you've not told me anything, and he calls you and you tell him that I saw you, there was something happened 2 months ago that delayed it, and your house will be ready in 2 months. It will be annoying to the person that's probably already planning to do housewarming, probably already planning a surprise to his family members, family planning dedication in church. That's why it's always best to communicate things with your stakeholders. Okay, here is where we are in the project, right? So even as a project manager, there's something called status updates, right? Always have milestones, right? Okay, at this stage where you have like, okay, maybe every 6 months I'm going, or every 3 months I'm going to be given an update on where your house is, right? Where we are in your house, or where we are in building your house currently, right? So for the first 3 months, you go meeting that, okay, we've done this so far. This is what we're yet to do. This is where we currently are. These are some issues we're facing, but we are on it already. That's fine. Feedback. You've given him feedback. He knows, okay, he knows what is going on. Then maybe next 3 months, you go back to him. Okay, we've overcome that. But now at this stage, so it's good to carry your stakeholders, your clients along, right? If anything arises, you tell them immediately. Because at the end of the day, it is not your project, right? It is their project. Your job is just to make sure that project or that goal, whatever goal they've given to you, is achieved in that project, right? So you still have to go back to whoever gave the project, your clients, your stakeholders. So is that clear?
Thank you very much. It's very clear. Thank you, sir.
Yes, you're welcome. So does anyone have any other question before we move on?
No, sir.
All right. So let's move on to our case study for today. All right, so our case study for today says you are the project head for a campus event, right? 2 days to go and chaos hits, right? Number one, the MC councils tells you that it's not going to be available that day. Number two, one of your team member is ghosting, right? Not picking calls, not attending meetings, right? Not answering messages. Number one, that's number two. So in number three, a major sponsor, suddenly backs out, right? So there is no money, right? The money part of your budget, right, has been cut off, right? And number four, the flyers have the wrong dates. You just found out that after all the flyers have been printed, right, 2 days to the event, and you found out that the flyers, even though you've even shared some of them, they are the wrong dates. So what do you do as a project manager? How do you solve these problems? So I want us to think together, right? Let's brainstorm as project managers. So I'd like to hear each and every one of us. Remember, if you would like to speak, raise your hand and I will call on you, or you can drop your answers in the chat box. All right, so Abdulatif, would you like to go on?
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. So I want to start with the beginning. You said the number one, we have the MC cancelled. Number two, we have one of the team members posting, the major sponsor suddenly back down, and the flyer has a wrong date. So one of the first things we are going to look at that is that the major thing here is the money. The sponsor is already backing down, so there is no money. So suddenly we already know as a project manager, first thing you do is that you have to cut costs, or you look for how to get another sponsor within that short period of time. If there is no way to get a sponsor, you will find a way to cut costs in major ways. Probably, since you have an MC counseling and this is a campus event, you can probably get, is a school, you can probably get somebody that is easily outgoing, that can easily represent in the MC's position within that short period of time. One of your team members is ghosting you. So you look at the team member, which post is the team member occupying? Is it a major post? Is it a minor post? Is this something you can oversee by yourself, even when the team member is not around? If it's something that you need somebody with you to help you to oversee it, if it's something you can easily oversee by yourself, even after contacting the team member and the team member is still ghosting you, if it's not a major role, you can easily cover that up. If it's a major role, you just try to see where the team members stop and get somebody very fast and brainstorm with the whole remaining team and see how you cover up that position. And the flyer having a wrong date is a major issue. So the first thing you look at the flyer is that, have you shared the flyer? If you have shared the flyer, you contact the people you share the flyer, or easily you create another flyer. If you are not share the flyer, you can easily probably, if it's something, you can use a pen to correct the date or a corrective flu, or you can print just a little date with a sticker on it and just place it on that part, because I've been in a event before that we have a round date on the flyer. So we just print just a little pamphlet, a little sticker of the original date, and be cutting it and be placing it on the flyer at that place for within that short period of time. And now we share the flyer and basically get to cover all the loopholes. And as a project manager, you should expect that something might go wrong, and try and have a backup plan always, or somebody that will back you up in most cases. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Abdulatif. Okay, so who is next?
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Victoria.
Okay. Okay, so for the MC counseling, I feel you could reach out to like your contacts or other teams, like for a backup MC. Then for the team member that is ghosting, you could like, if the other available team members, you can try reassigning the team members' tasks to them to reliable members. Then for the major sponsor backing out, you could try to like adjust the budget and like scale back on things that are not very important. And for the flyers, I feel you could optimize social media to like redistribute digital flyers.
All
Thank you.
right. All right. Thank you very much, Victoria. All right. So who would like to go next? Sorry, is someone trying to speak?
Yes, good evening, sir.
Yes. Good evening. Let's go on.
Okay, so for the case study, let's start with the first one, which is when the MC cancels. I think as a project manager, you are supposed to have like a team you work with. Let's say, okay, I'm a project manager. I have an MC I always call whenever an event is given to me to handle, right? I have a DJ I always call whenever I have a caterer I always call, unless my clients or probably like my campus people, sorry, let me say my campus people want someone else other than the person that I have been working with. And then when one of your team members
Sorry, we can't hear you anymore. Are you still speaking? Wait, I think our network's bad. Yeah, I think our network is bad. All right, so who would like to go next?
Okay, sorry, please, I want to clarify something. This number 3 that I say the major sponsor solely backs out.
Yeah.
Has the sponsor already given like money before the person backed out, or he hasn't given anything at all and then he backed out 2 days to the event?
Or let's say let's say we're expecting like 500,000 from him, and he had dropped a down payment of maybe like 250,000, and we've already get our budget already of 500,000 in mind, right? And we've already hired people. We've told them that okay, after the event we pay with putting in mind that okay, we have 250,000 still coming, right? So let's say it's that type of situation, right? Probably the person yes has paid a down payment, but just suddenly backs out and is not able to like feel its promise fully. Let's put it that way.
Okay, let me just say something actually. Okay, 2 days to the event, the MC cancels, one team member is boasting. Okay, let's say for the MC counseling 2 days to the event, I guess like someone said earlier, probably you should have like a team you work with. People that maybe that you team have an MC and all that. And even if you don't have, I guess maybe around you, you should have people that you know that can do that. This is a campus. There are persons that you know that can do that. You can do a last minute arrangement with someone that you know that is quite capable of handling that position. Then for a team member ghosting, if the team member is occupying a position that them leaving is not going to shake, at least you have other persons that are around. You can I think you should have trusted persons that can handle things like that, like when you have emergencies. You and all that. Then major sponsor, Omo, hey Jesus. I don't know. I don't really know what to say about this, but I guess you should, if possible, try to reach out to the sponsor and know what their reason is that made them to back out like at that last minute, and know if it would be possible to resolve the issue. But if it's not possible, the only thing now is try to know how you can source for funds. And then if it's possible, like maybe there are expenses that you can actually cut, then you try to, maybe things that you've not done or the ones you've already done, you try to look for a way to like curtail your expenses and to see if the money you have at hand can really cover the cost. Now for flyers having the wrong dates, you should just try to make some clarification. Like you take, okay, okay, but the flyers having a wrong date, you should try to like maybe do another post like online, like back to back with your team members, back to back. And if it's possible to go for a physical announcement, you can go like physically to tell people that it was a wrong date. That's just all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Yes. Thank you very much. Would like to go next? Okay.
Okay,
I
good
think
evening, everyone.
yeah. Good evening.
Okay, and what I will say is okay. Number one, this is the MC councils, but I think the major problem or the major chaos should be there is a major sponsor suddenly backs down because they actually need money. Now, from the onset, let's say for instance, as you earlier said, he was initially supposed to support the program with the sum of 500K, but he has already made a down payment of 250. Now, with his support of 500K, you've already arranged your budget, you've planned the whole event and said, okay, this is the budget for the event. But now you guys now we have I have a shortage of let's say 250K via the budget, via him now backing down. Now the MC councils is like a plus to like is an advantage also, although it's a chaos. Now, reason because he made his decision too late, 2 days to the event. Now, since it's a campus, definitely I can definitely sort out for people that can stand in for him. Probably 2 persons or 3 persons that will definitely show interest. And then a day to the event, I can probably give them a try to like MC some group of persons. Then let's choose from the few ones that I might have gathered around. Now from probably multiple persons, I can then pick out one or two. Now then for the wrong date on the flyer, definitely there's always bound to technical issues. Now probably while typing or while printing, there might be some issues. Now if they've not shared out the flyer, which is not possible because it is 2 days to the event, definitely they might have started making the audience, started making the announcement earlier before now. Now, since let's say for instance that you've already shared the flyer and then 2 days to the event, then you realize that the date on the flyer happens to be wrong. You simply go for let's say a social media announcement on a new date. Then alongside with the announcement, you can possibly come up with 1 or 2 stories why the date was cancelled or why the date was shifted to the real date. I think that should be all for me.
All right. Thank you very much. And yeah, thank you to everyone that have spoken. Yeah, I value all your opinions. Yeah, I think some people have also dropped the answers in the chat. Yeah, so let's get into it. So let's take it one by one. Right. So this is a very interesting one because I'm not going to lie to you. Things like this actually happen, right? You would face problems like this during projects that you would even think, how do I even solve this? Right. So if you've not really mastered your problem solving skills, you would panic, and at the end of the day, you just lock yourself in one room and maybe just go to sleep for like 5 hours first. But like as I said, as a project manager, you always have to think of solutions first before now looking for okay, what to claim or what's what. Or like asking who are we supposed to claim basically, right? Remember, I said you are a leader, you're also a project manager, you're also a manager, right? So if you as the leader, you are looking confused and you're looking like someone that's giving up, what do you want your teammates to do? Right. So let's take it one by one. First one, the MC councils, right? So this is not a really big problem as like the rest, because as I said earlier, you must always have a backup for each vendor, right? But in this case, it's 2 days to the event, right? So you might have even paid the down payment, right? Or even in this case where your money is not even enough because the major sponsor has backed out, right? So as Ubong said, it might actually be a good thing, right? Because you are in a campus, you are in the university, there would be someone somewhere that would want to show his MC skills, right? This same thing applies to the last issue, right? That's the one where the flyers have the wrong date, right? So there is always going to be someone somewhere, right, that would want to show their skills, right? That want to show their MC skills or their DJ skills, right? So I'm going to connect this. No, I'm going to connect this and with the third one, right, where your major sponsor backs out, right? So in a case where your major sponsor backs out, you don't need to panic. You're not supposed to panic, right? Maybe yes, you can shed tears for like 1 minute or 2 minutes, or you're supposed to then start recalculating your project, right? What are the things I don't really need? What are the things that I can really do without, right? Reach out to backup, right? If you have any backup sponsors, anybody that maybe before, reach out to them, talk to them very well. If they can really assist you with something, find like quick kind support, like maybe just little sponsorships, right? Just maybe from students themselves in the campus. If you'd like to, support the program, let's send out flyers for support, right? Anybody, any money, accept everything, right? Then also like for little roles like MC, like DJ, like for example, decorations, right? You're in the campus, you'll always be someone there that is looking for publicity, that already knows how to do all these things, but is just looking for a platform. You give them a platform. For example, a DJ, there will be so many students there that would be already into DJing, but don't really have the audience, right? They've never really had that promo. And this is the campus event. So many students will be there. So to them, it's even a win-win because they get free publicity, they get free promo, and they get to perform on stage. So like to students, it's a very, very reasonable deal, right? So same thing applies to other roles. Maybe, for example, MC, even the MC that council, you can always get someone among the students or even among your team that will be willing to step up, right? So that's why it's just very, very important for you to act fast. Remember, all this happened 2 days to your program. So if you spend a whole 1 day trying to look for ways to blame or trying to beg someone, it will waste your time, right? So you just have to quickly start looking for solutions, right? So for the second one, where you have a team member ghosting, try as much as possible to reach out to the person. If you sent text messages, you've tried calling them and they're not still coming forth, right? You can send someone to if you know of a friend or anybody or even you yourself, right? If like know your house or somewhere that you can meet them, try to get in touch with them. If you can like actually talk to the person and check in whether okay, what happened, why have you not been responding, why have you been posting? And if it's something like the person cannot fix, right? If it's an emergency that caused the person to ghost, then you should start looking for someone else to assign roles, right? Someone else who would be able to step in for the person, right? So this one is relatively easy, right? You just have to look for someone to step in, and if there's nobody, you can also take charge, right, of that particular role. Because as I said earlier, it is very, very important for you to be involved in the process, right? So if you already know where that person stopped, if you already know how far the person has gone, it will be so easy for you to even take that role on by yourself without looking for anybody else, right? So then the third one, I've already explained it, your major sponsor backs out, try to cut costs, right? Anything that is not essential, cut it off. Try to look for any little sponsors, right? Maybe people that have been thinking of sponsoring the program before, but have not really they've not really made up their mind, right? Now it's time to pressure them, ask them that any little amount will go a long way, Just let people know that you're in need of money. Send out flyers for support, do all those kind of things. And yes, rules, as I said, rules that can be offered for free, offer them for free, right? For example, DJ, for example, MC, even decorations, because there will be so many people that might be doing decoration in school. The campus is full of different type of students that are learning different type of things, that have different type of skills, right? So now is the best time for you to even bring that and use it to your advantage, right? So then the last one, flyers have the wrong dates. This can happen. Yes, this can happen to anyone, right? Designers can sometimes make mistake, and everything might have been printed before anybody even notices that okay, this date is wrong. Next thing to do is to, as someone said, pull off every single one of those flyers. Right, if it's online, right, if you've been sharing those flyers online and nobody noticed that it was the wrong date, remove every single one of them from your social media platforms. Right, attach the new ones, post the new ones, but make it clear that there is a new date, right? So you can even make it as an announcement that a new date has been formed, right? There's a new date, right? Make it as an announcement because yeah, in the campus, right? Information spreads quickly in the campus, right? If two friends or three friends all decided that they were going to go for the program, and you sent a social media post 2 days to the program that the date has been changed, the date that was on the previous flyer, please ignore it. This is the so new date, right? And if only one friend out of the whole friend group sees that one friend will be able to share the information to so many other people, to all these other friends that okay, Alpha guys, so the date has been changed. So it's no longer Thursday, it is now Friday. Information spreads quickly in the campus setting, right? So just try as much as possible to curb all every single information that has been spread before. Everyone go that has been spread, the flyers that has been spread that has a wrong date. Try to minimize them, right? If you already printed them and you're already sharing them, stop sharing them, get new ones, use your social media platforms, use online platforms because those ones go quicker, right? They spread quicker than the physical ones, right? WhatsApp, Instagram, every single one of your channels. Ask people, your team members, every single person to post, every single person that you post because you need to get that new date to as many people as possible. If you can get it to so many people, the information will spread by itself. So I think that yes, I think that's all. So that's just how I would like each and every one of us to approach each of this issue, right? If as a project manager you are the one panicking, it's not a good sign to your team members, right? If someone that is supposed to be our leader is the one panicking at problems when facing problems, it's not a good sign, right? But if your team members alone can see how cool you are after someone that promised you 250,000 naira just say they're not giving you that money again, if they can see how cool you are, then of course they themselves they will marvel, they will don't want to use that stage, right? To follow in line. But if as you are panicking, they are panicking, as they're panicking, you're also panicking. Everyone will be confused, right? So one of the key things when issues arise, just try as much as possible to stay calm, right? Stay calm and treat the problems as they come. Be solution focused, not um do not blame, do not go to blame, right? That's not your concern at the moment, right? Or after the event, you can now look at okay, what went wrong, what did we not do, who did what, we did that. But for now, your goal is to make sure the event is successful. So I feel all clear with that. So does anyone have any question? All right, so we're all clear, we're all following. Can you drop a thumbs up before we move on to the wrap up? All right, so let's move on to our wrap up. So today we've learned how projects are structured from start to finish and what skills you would need to manage them, right? So you're not just learning how to complete a task, you're learning how to lead. And leading doesn't necessarily what lead would mean to you or what leading would mean to you as a project manager is not just on the surface, right? You have to manage, not even lead, right? You are a leader, yes, but you're also a manager, right? So I think with that we've come to the end of today's class. So does anyone have any question before we end the class? Yeah, I think someone's hand is raised. Right. So does anyone have any question?
Sorry, sir, I have a question. The
All right.
assignment you gave for our last class, if anybody have not submitted, can they still submit it or is it already too late?
All right. So for the assignments, right? There's even an issue with the assignments, right? So I know so many of you sent the assignments to my email address, right? So that was the instruction I gave. But new information is coming in that we're actually supposed to send it to a WhatsApp number, right? So I would like every single one of us that submitted our assignments, I sent you to my email, right? Now I would like you to send that same assignment to the company's number, right? The one that starts with +234. I feel it has been dropped on the group because that way the company will be able to track your progress, right, and grade you properly, right? So what I want every single one of us to do now is if you submitted the assignments already, just send that same assignment, right, with your link, right, with the link to your LinkedIn post, right? Send it to the company's WhatsApp number. Add your full name, your LinkedIn post, and the PDF assignment or the assignment in Microsoft Word, right? Send it to the company's number. So is everyone clear with that? I feel I'll give a grace, right, to tomorrow or yeah, to the end of tomorrow. So I'll give us to tomorrow to do that, right? Even those of us that have not submitted the assignments, you have to request tomorrow to submit the assignments. So, but I'll speak with the manager and so that everyone that submits the assignments before before, let's say before Monday, right, is graded. So what I want every single one of us to do now is the assignment you submitted, right? Yesterday's assignment, I want you to forward the assignment to the company's WhatsApp number. So you'll be forwarding the assignment itself, that's the PDF, the link, and your full name, right? If everything is already in the documents, right, in your assignment, no problem, just send the documents, right? But if it's not already in your documents, you send them separately. You can send them separately as messages to the company's WhatsApp number, right? So I'll also be giving another assignment today. So I'll be sending the assignment to the group, right? For everything, just send everything together when you've done them, right? So I would speak with the manager, right? And yeah, I think that's all. Does anyone not under, is there anyone that does not understand? Okay, I think someone's hand is raised. Do you have a question, Cherish?
Yes, sir. What about some of us that just joined today? So we don't really have any idea about the previous class. So I don't know if there's a recording or a note that we can check
All right.
through to see, then get the do the assignment and then submit it.
Yeah. So did you just join the group today or you just joined the class today?
Yes,
Okay, you
today,
just joined.
today.
All right. So yes, there is a recording, even though we're currently live on YouTube, right? So I'll send the recording to yesterday's class. I'll also send the class
Okay.
notes for yesterday and the assignments. So you'll be able to do yours and submit with today's assignments, right? So it's that's
Okay.
clear.
Okay, sir.
All right. So does anyone else have any other question? So does anyone have any other question? Okay, so if no one has a question, I would like to thank each and every one of us for attending today's class.
I
So,
think for Richie, I think Cherish has a question.
all right, she just spoke. I think. Cherish, do you have a question?
No, no, sir.
All right.
Okay, Victory bracket.
Good evening. Sorry, please, I want to ask because I was not part of yesterday's class,
Sam,
so
check your
I
DM.
don't know. Yeah, I know. I don't know how the attendance is, if we are to mark any attendance or with just our names showing on it, our attendance are marked already. I don't know. I just wanted to ask.
All right. So in terms of attendance, I feel your attendance will be based on if you submit the assignment, right? So that's the best way for us to know you were actually in the class, right? So just try as much as possible. Although the class is being recorded, so yes, you can always still go back and check on the people that attended the class. But yes, just try as much as possible to submit your assignments, and you are good. So exactly.
Yes, yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to remind each and every one of us that although yeah, so I think yes, that brings us to the end of today's class, right? Also brings us to the end of week one, right? So that's the end of week one for project management, right? So I'll see you guys next week. But I would also like to remind you that you can't learn project management in 1 month, right? I believe we all know that, right? You can't learn a skill in exactly 1 month, right? So it's very, very important for me to really stretch that, right? For me to stress it that 1 month is not enough, right, for you to learn a skill, but it is also is enough for me to really set the foundation, right? So when I started my journey, especially in design, I attended the class for basically 2 weeks, right? If I compare what I learned then to what I've learned now, of course, it won't really compare. I can't really compare it, right? It's just little, right? But it really set a foundation, right? It was like a starting point, right? That was what really got me interested and really opened me to a whole different world entirely, right? So this class, right, this bootcamp is just like that, just something to really, give you that footstep you need to really jump into the tech world, right? So really, really want to really get into project management as a career, right? I would really recommend you, number one, the internships, very, very important, right? So try as much as possible to make sure your grades are up and you are able to qualify for the internships, right? So that's one, because that's just one few months of being able to get real life experience or real life experience, right? Working on real life projects, right? And also try as much as possible to, you know, try to pay for the professional training, right? So that is like a whole full 6 months or so, if I'm not wrong, of learning step by step of what to do in project management, right? So it's not how you spend 6 months learning the skill and you not be able to come out, at least over the bare minimum, right? So at the end of that 6 months, I'm very sure you should be able to start getting jobs as a project manager, right? So yes, just trying to remind you, your internships, try as much as possible to make sure you qualify for those, and also the professional training, try as much as possible to prepare yourself for that, right? So if there are no other questions, I think we've come to the end of today's class. I'd like to appreciate each and every one of us for joining, and wish you a wonderful weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, good night.